What is up, YouTube? Johnny here again today, and we're going to be bringing you episode 7 of the Project IS300 build. So what we're going to be doing today is actually doing an oil change, because I have changed the power steering fluid. I refilled some of the transmission fluid because it was leaking due to the hoses ripping up front from the accident. Most of the time when I do an oil change, it doesn't really matter to me how much miles the vehicle has. If the vehicle is running good and it's not making noises, where the engine, where you can hear your valves not seating properly and they're making a bunch of ticking noises, I tend to leave it with the factory oil. So what I'm going to be doing is replacing it with this here. I'm going to be using Proline Full Synthetic. I know you guys probably don't know this brand because this is a Pep Boys brand. What they do is actually just repackage Pennzoil. So this is Pennzoil Full Synthetic. All they do is they just put a different sticker on it, and since it's not Pennzoil, you can sell it a little bit cheaper, get a good deal on it, and it's still really high quality stuff. And then we're going to be going with a Fram filter, just because that's one of the better ones that we know. On most of the vehicles, it tells you what weight to use. There's always people asking questions on the forums of what oils that they should use, what oil to change it to when it's high mileage. Most of the time, you would go a little bit thicker with high mileage. If you're going to race the engine, you always have different types of weights. I don't really like to mess with that too much, because what I do is I just restore cars, make them look like new, make them drive like new, and make them sound like new. So the engine is one of the main things that you do not want ticking. So depending on what the noise is making, that's the weight of oil that you go with. On some of the newer vehicles, it's not recommended to go thicker because of the way that the system functions. Is they have a lot of little veins that require the oil to be thin, so the oil travels through there and it activates all kinds of things, because that's what the oil does in all these fancy cars. So you don't want to up the weight, you don't want to put thicker oil in there, just because of that fact that you're going to be messing something up. So generally what I do is I stick with the OEM specifications for the oil. Just go synthetic. Synthetic helps out a lot. It lasts a little bit longer and it protects your engine a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get started on that. One of the things that I like to do before I buy a vehicle is actually check the oil. You never really have a history on the car when buying it from an auction, so what I do is go ahead and pull out the dipstick and just get a good clean look at the oil. The oil will tell you a significant amount about the car, about how it was treated, about what's wrong with the engine, if anything. So there can be lots of different things. Okay, so the oil will tell you everything that you need to know about the engine. For example, if you see a little sparkling coming from the oil, it could be that the engine's been worn out. A lot of the metal shavings from the engine eating itself are actually in the oil, so that'll show you that the engine is either bad or going to be bad, or a piston blew or something if it's not turning on. Because most of the times when I get them like this in the back abandoned, they could not turn on. The engine can be bad. You have nothing to base yourself on because you only see the car, and then when it passes by the auction, if it even passes, this one actually passed on the screen, you can't tell. So I base myself a lot on how the oil looks. Another thing is, obviously if it looks a little bit milky, is that your head gasket is most likely bad. So if it's got any signs of something white, or even water in there, you can tell that the car probably overheated or probably just blew a head gasket, and everything is just mixing in the oil, the water, and it gets pretty bad. So that's how you know that the engine is bad. So this also works, if you're buying a car secondhand, you go on Craigslist or something and it turns out, that you like the car. This is one of the main things that you want to look for before you purchase the car, because if this tells you, there's little metal shavings inside this oil, or there's, milky solution in here, it's probably going to be bad. Or if it's actually running and running good, it's probably going to go out pretty soon. So just the key to do that. So the oil on this car actually looks really good. Obviously I've turned the car on a couple times, so I already know that the engine is good. But from the looks of it, looks like it hasn't been changed in a while, so I'm going to go ahead and change it, just because I don't know how many miles this oil's been on. And if I'm going to daily drive it, I want to make sure that the oil in here is good. So since we're going to change the oil, the very first thing that I want to do is go ahead and remove these stickers. on. No longer going to be running AMSOIL, so there's no point in keeping the stickers around. So we're going to go ahead and take those out. From the looks of it, looks like the owner used to like to put expensive oil in there. Probably one of the higher quality oils there are, but I'm just going to daily drive it. I'm not trying to track it or race it. It's just going to be a normal car for me. So with regular oil, it should be fine. So let's go ahead and lift the car up to get the oil out. Alright, now that we have the car up on the lift, you know, if you have it on jacks, it's actually really accessible to get to the bolt. So let's go ahead and do that. If you guys just look straight, you'll be able to see where the bolt is at. So now we just go ahead and remove it. This is a 14mm bolt, so it's really, really easy to remove. Now all you have to do is wait for the oil to come out. So we're just gonna let the stream run out, probably let it drip out a little bit, make sure we get as much oil as we can out of the car to be able to replace it with some new fresh oil. Okay, now that we have most of the oil out, looks like it's still dripping a little bit, but I've been waiting for about a good 5-10 minutes now, so that should be most of it. Let's put it back on. Make sure you clean up the area so it stays clean, and just tighten it back up. You want a nice snug fit. You don't want to over torque it either, because you can rip out your threads, and that's not good. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and remove the filter, which is right over here on this side. Alright, so it took me a little while to kind of figure out where the oil filter was at, and it turns out it's in not a very good spot. It's a little hard to get to. So I'm going to show you guys right now where it's at. It's right beside the engine. Right there. Kind of hidden in between everything. So it looks like I'm gonna have to somehow fit my hand in there and be able to take it off. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so now that we know where the oil filter's at, we're gonna go ahead and remove it. It looks like you have enough room to use, you know, the tool to remove the filters, but I'm pretty sure I can remove it with my hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It's a little tight in here, but it gives me just enough room to twist it a little bit with my hand. Gonna leak out a little oil, so just loosen it up a little bit to leak the oil out. I've heard some people actually use a plastic bag to cover the oil filter, just so that the plastic bag catches all of the oil instead of getting on your car. But what I do is I just degrease it down a little bit and then just hose it down to get all the oil off. Seems to work both ways. It's just a matter of preference. Here it comes. Here is the filter. Seems this guy likes to have everything AMSOIL, or even the filter is AMSOIL. Okay. Now that we got it out, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is wipe down the area where the filter goes. You want to make sure that there's no dirt in that area for when you put the new filter. Just use a rag, kind of give it a good cleaning before. And there it is. You can barely get a glimpse of it, but just make sure it's nice and clean. Alright, so now that we have the old filter out, we're gonna go ahead and install the new filter. I like to grab some of the old oil and kind of just rub it around the ring, just so that way when I put it on, it has a little bit of slip to it, so it gives me enough room to tighten. Let's go ahead and put it on now. Make sure you don't tighten it too hard, because if you do, you're not going to be able to remove it with your hand again next time. Looks like I got it on the thread. There we go. The filter is on. Now all I'm going to have to do is go ahead and wipe it down. As you guys can tell, there's some oil spots from where the oil spilled from the filter. Alright, there we go. We did everything that we needed to do down here. So now we're gonna go ahead and bring the car back down to go ahead and put the oil in. Now the only thing left to do is put the oil inside the engine. I was reading online, looking at various forums, and they said that it only requires 5.7, so I went ahead and ordered 6 quarts. So we're gonna try to put in 5.7 quarts. Looks like we're not gonna be needing this. So there's the oil, in case you guys are wondering. And always make sure to throw your trash away. Alright guys, we are finally done with the oil change on the Lexus IS300. Hopefully this video helped you out in case you were looking on how to do an oil change on your Lexus, if you barely got it or you just haven't done one yet. For those of you that have been watching the project build, this is one of the few steps that I did to it to make sure that it was a good daily driver for me. So now to continue on, we're probably gonna have to start with the body work, but I have ordered the fans since then, so the fans are gonna be coming in on Wednesday. So they'll be here on Wednesday. So that's when I will be able to put it on that following weekend, to be able to set this all up and then hopefully continue with the project build. Still have to do the body work on the car, paint it, and I still need the air intake, so I need to find one of those. Haven't had any luck finding one, so hopefully I'll find one soon.